are we going to be putting any Brockhampton on there from the new album Ginger?
Well, there's one song I really enjoy off Ginger, and then other than that, there's just some songs that I think are solid. But yeah, not my favorite. Unfortunately, what did you think of Brockhampton's fifth solo album, Ginger, or studio album?
Yeah.
Solo.
Well, so it was interesting, right? We talked about Iridescence last year. I caught up through the Saturation trilogy to be able to talk about Iridescence with some perspective. And I wasn't expecting them to be dropping this so quickly afterwards. I mean, Iridescence came out October? November?
September, yeah. So it's been 11 months.
But yeah, been a year or almost. And you know, the Saturation albums are, I don't want to say spastic, but I feel like they bring so much more energy in so many different ways. And Ginger was felt kind of one note. And I still think the production on this is really impressive and unique, and you don't really hear songs that are made like this. But I probably left this one feeling like this is my least favorite Brockhampton album of the five, which is kind of disappointing because I felt like after Kevin Abstract's solo project, Arizona Baby, which I liked a lot, that this was going to be kind of like a great follow-up, and I felt a little disappointed.
Yeah, and the thing is, Kevin, especially in Saturation Trilogy, really anchors those albums. Mm-hmm. His presence, his just kind of like the it of the group. And Ginger, he really stood out for not standing out, just kind of being one of the guys, and despite being the most talented guy in the group, I think it's kind of a perplexing choice. And listening to Ginger, I was like, oh, this is a little lighter than Iridescence. I mean, Iridescence was truly at their darkest time, obviously, when Amir leaving the group and the fallout from that. Yet, I think I just like more Iridescence songs. Mm-hmm. That's a darker, funkier album. And I think that's kind of the issue is I like Brockhampton when they're happier, when they're more energetic and their chemistry shines through more. And this just feels like they kind of all are kind of processing the grief a little bit on their own. And it's kind of just more spread out and disjointed as a result. But No Halo, which was a song they had hyped up leading up to the album, that's my favorite song for sure off the project. Mm-hmm. That's just an interesting track because it's almost like a pop song, and they don't really have any songs like that to this point. I really like Merlin on that. And I think St. Percy, they have that really cool sample that they use to tease the album lead up. And I'm still not actually sure what that sample is. I haven't been able to track that down yet, but I like that. And the transition from St. Percy into If You Pray Right, which then is following back on the bass line that they introduced in Heaven Belongs to You. So that was great sequencing, great mixing. That sounded really great. But those songs, I think, they're solid songs, but I'm not going to run them back a lot. That's despite the fact that you're interpolating Nina Simone and sampling 3-6 Mafia,
Right. Yeah, I actually think the first three tracks, No Halo, Sugar, and Boy Bye, all are really good. And I actually feel like even up through Dearly Departed, which is probably my favorite track off this, mostly because of it creates this like ambiance almost with like the way that it has like that, like, I don't even know what it is, like synth or something like that, that kind of like is in the background the whole time, and then the electric guitars kind of create this like mood. This is probably the moodiest album I can remember for Brockhampton, and this is a boy band who kind of relies on being moody, but these guys are really in their feels. And Dearly Departed is like the center of that, where like these guitars I think are supposed to be like symbolizing this deep internal conflict that they're talking about, with like feeling like Amir had really done them wrong. And I think I forgot what his name was, Matt Champion. Yeah, Matt Champion on that track. He's talking about like the loss of his grandparents, things like that. So it's really about a song about grief. And then they go into Ginger, which is even more of like a feels vibey song, for lack of a better term. And then from there, Big Boy, Love Me for Life, and Victor Roberts just fell totally flat for me. and I was already kind of feeling like, oh, this is a bit of a tough hang for Brockhampton, and
Yeah.
I don't mind the Brockhampton songs where they get into their feels. I mean, San Andreas or
San Marcos.
San Marcos, thank you, was what my favorite song off Iridescence. That's a
Right.
totally like sad boy song, but this one just I think it was because it was so one note. The whole album in general felt a bit like a slog.
Yeah. I think if any of the performers jumped out to me, it was just Joba.
Mm.
Again, he doesn't have a ton of spots, but the Big Boy and Love Me for Life, he just really has really come into his own in the last two albums as this really frenetic performer. And even when he's giving a dark, sad verse, it's just so compelling. I just think because he's really great on the mic. And it's kind of wild to think about because he's barely in the Saturation trilogy. He was not really one of the main performers at that time. But he really stood out to me. And I think Kevin just really floated in and out, which was just disappointing, obviously, because we were high on his solo project. Honestly, and again, I think a lot of the music videos are really cool. They're certainly creative dudes. They'll bounce back. But part of me just wonders if they're just kind of burnt out from this RCA record deal they signed just a year and a half ago, because they signed that deal for 6 albums over 3 years. As it was reported, they're already behind that pace, if that's is truly what they need to deliver on. But I just wonder if, and they said they recorded like 100 tracks for this and they narrowed it down. And I wonder if all 100 were sad, to be honest. like what else did you guys have lay out there that we didn't hear?
Well, it's interesting. I was reading a little bit about this album, and I think they were kind of fucking with whoever was doing the interview, but they're like, oh, we really want to make our summer album. We don't want this to be very upbeat. And then this comes out. But there's also stories about how a major influence on this album has been Shia LaBeouf holding these like group therapy sessions at their like creative home where they all get together and record.
Right.
Very interesting stuff. You mentioned Joba. One thing I was thinking with a band like this that I would really find interesting would be if they brought an outside producer, someone maybe like a Dev Hynes, to come in and maybe give a couple touches and flourishes on it. Because I mean, he makes sad boy music too, but I think he brings an element that maybe could be a little bit more interesting and maybe invigorate them a little bit. I love to throw out those hypothetical like producer artist like combinations. So that was my thought with that.
I mean, they all love Pharrell. It'd be cool if they actually could link up with him.
That would be a really cool.
And they have that Slow Thigh, that UK rapper. He pops up a few times in this, and Ryan Beatty, the singer who was on Queer and Bleach from past tracks, he pops up again. But yeah, they are signed to RCA. They can bring some people in. It doesn't just need to be Ramil and Jabari the whole time.
Yeah. Although, like you said, Ramil and Jabari were still great.
Oh yeah, no, they're awesome. I mean, they're super exciting, and I know Ramil actually has been branched out a little bit. Remember, he popped up on the Kaliukis record last year. So,
I mean, isn't that kind of the thing though? Is that they're just kind of getting too big to remain a group this big? Like their perspectives are so varied. How do you create any cohesion with that?
That's the thing too. They don't even live together anymore. Actually, now they all come together at that creative house. But they used to all be living in the same house and working that way. That's probably how they the crap out Saturation so fast, because they're all on top of each other.
Yeah.
It's again, because maybe the group just, they need to straighten the arrow again, and maybe once they progress past the lows they've been at in the past year and a half, they can get to that point and just come easier. But right now, I think Ginger, like Iridescence, is just too kind of singular focus on each member's perspective on the grief. It doesn't always come together. And like I said with Iridescence, Bareface, he's very hit or miss for me. I think some of those songs, man, he's just kind of wailing. It really loses me.
We're definitely going to add at least one Brockhampton track